Welcome to the AQA GCSE RE Revision Guide, Religion and Prejudice, Life Issues, Unit 2.4. Prejudice means to prejudge someone because of their race, religion, gender or age. Prejudice is hard to control as it's based around people's thoughts rather than their actions. Discrimination is when people act on prejudiced thoughts. Examples would be refusing to give someone a job because they're too old, not promoting someone because they're female, police stopping and searching more black people than white people, not allowing a disabled person to attend mainstream school, calling a Muslim a terrorist. Positive discrimination means treating people well because of who or what they are. This could be for a good reason, such as giving priority seats to the elderly or disabled, or giving a fuel allowance to vulnerable people. However, cases have occurred where people have been given a job due to belonging to an ethnic minority, for example, to promote relations. This can be seen as unjust. There are a lot of reasons why people are prejudiced. A lack of understanding or education about a culture. There are many different cultures that have different beliefs, values and customs. These can appear strange if you do not know anything about that race or religion. Another cause of prejudice is fear or uncertainty. Fear over terrorist attacks after 9/11 led to many racist incidents towards peaceful Muslims. When unemployment is high, questions over immigration always arise. The media can play a huge part in these views. Another reason for prejudice and discrimination is having prejudiced parents or carers. Parents have a huge influence over their children, and growing up hearing prejudiced comments will impact the child's views of other races, religions and cultures. Another big cause of prejudice is having a bad experience or being a victim of prejudice. If someone has been attacked or treated badly by a certain group, then it is logical that they might hold resentment to the whole of that group or that race. What are the effects of discrimination and prejudice? Fear, violence, distrust, low self-esteem, worthlessness, uncertainty, genocide, the Holocaust. There are many different types of discrimination and prejudice. One of the main types is racism. This is prejudice due to someone's race or skin colour. A famous example of this is the murder of Anthony Walker in Liverpool 2005. He was killed in a racist attack. Anthony Walker, an 18-year-old student, was killed simply because he was black. He was murdered with an ice axe as he walked through a park in Liverpool. Michael Barton and Paul Taylor were convicted and given life imprisonment for the attack. Another type of prejudice is sexism. This is prejudice due to someone's gender, male or female. The consequences of religious prejudice has been the most dramatic of all the different types, causing the death of over 6 million Jewish people during the Holocaust in World War II. Other types of prejudice include ageism. People can be prejudiced about someone's age. Old people may not get jobs. People may consider teenagers as bad-mannered. Class and wealth. People can judge others on their class or wealth. Money is a big influence on people's lifestyles. Christians believe that God created humans in his image and that he created all people equally and with the same importance. Therefore, prejudice and discrimination is seen as wrong in the belief of Christianity, and Christians have a responsibility to prevent it as part of our stewardship towards each other. In the Bible, it is recorded that Jesus told the story of the Good Samaritan, which is used as evidence that Christians should help people of all races, showing no prejudice but caring for all people in our society. This is where the famous quote, "Love your neighbour," comes from. It is believed that Jesus himself showed no prejudice in his life. He helped people of all races, gender, and even his enemies. The stories of his miracles involved all types of people, showing that everyone was equally important to him. Christians try to follow the example of Jesus in their lives. They preach that we should help all of humanity and that we should treat no people unfairly or unjust because of their race, religion, or gender. Muslims also believe that prejudice and discrimination is wrong. This is because they believe that Allah created all people equally. Muhammad preached against slavery and taught people's differences are not reason for discrimination. The Quran, the Islamic holy book, says that prejudice and discrimination should not be allowed. Islamic teachings state that people will be judged in the afterlife on how they have treated others. This is known as the Day of Judgment. Equality is shown on Hajj, pilgrimage or religious journey to the city of Mecca, where all people, male, female, rich, poor, young or old, wear white to show that they are the same and equal in the eyes of Allah. So what does the UK law say about discrimination and prejudice? There have been several acts or laws that have come into effect in the UK to help stop prejudice and discrimination. The Sex Discrimination Act of 1975 made it illegal to discriminate against people because of their gender. The Race Relations Act of 1976 meant that you could be prosecuted for racist behaviour. The Disability Discrimination Act of 1995 ensured that opportunity and access would be provided to disabled people. The Equality Act of 2006 made it illegal to discriminate on grounds of religion or age. However, these laws have now been replaced by the 2010 Equality Act, which incorporates the main aspects of all the past laws. This means that there is equal opportunities in work, equal chance to good education and healthcare. This act is supported by both Christians and Muslims in this country. The most famous Christian who has fought against prejudice and discrimination is Martin Luther King. In the 1950s and 60s, black people in America faced prejudice and discrimination. Black children had to attend different schools that had poor facilities, books and equipment. Black people could not use the same swimming pools or restaurants as white people. Martin Luther King was a Christian who set about trying to get rid of the unjust treatment of black people. He wanted people to be treated fairly and for black people to have the same rights as white people. He's most famous for several peaceful, non-violent demonstrations during the civil rights movement. His famous I Have a Dream speech, in which he stated, "My children will live in a nation where they will not be judged by the colour of their skin, but by the content of their character." He supported the bus boycott started by Rosa Parks during the civil rights movement.
Police Commissioner Bull Connor was on public record as being strongly opposed to the civil rights movement. His police met the demonstrators with a show of force rarely seen in America. Police dogs attacked unarmed and unprotected marchers. The fire department was called in to help suppress the fire of freedom. The force of water from their hoses was like a battering ram. Even from a distance, people were knocked off their feet by the powerful blasts. This kind of response to the peaceful black struggle for equal rights was not new, but now the confrontations were broadcast across the nation on television. America saw firsthand that the demonstrators remained nonviolent, while the police were unrestrained in their use of life-threatening force. Never before was Dr. King's philosophy of nonviolence more effective, as millions of Americans began to realize that the blacks were being victimized by the laws of the land, rather than being protected by the law. Like other Americans, President Kennedy watched on television the familiar spectacle of police violence against Dr. King and his followers. For the upper-class president from New England, it was a shocking education in the realities of life for Black America. During the 11 days King spent in prison, he wrote and smuggled out the famous letter from a Birmingham jail, in which he reiterated his philosophy of nonviolent civil disobedience. For years now, we've heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has almost always meant never. We must come to see that justice too long delayed is justice denied. Perhaps it is easy for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say wait. But when you have seen vicious mobs lynch your mothers and fathers at will, when you've seen the vast majority of your 20 million Negro brothers smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society, when you are forever fighting a degenerating sense of nobodiness, then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait.
You could also refer to Desmond Tutu, who fought against the system of apartheid in South Africa. Apartheid means separateness. Desmond Tutu peacefully campaigned against this system and successfully became the first black Archbishop of Cape Town. He, like Martin Luther King, believed that God created all people equally and was driven by this basic belief.
Apartheid in South Africa crumbled after Nelson Mandela walked to freedom, but black people suffered decades of government-backed injustice before it did. Apartheid really began in 1948, but separating black Africans from the white minority had long been a policy aim. Laws made white people officially superior, and the large black majority faced discrimination in every aspect of their lives. Living, doing business or owning land in white areas was banned. There were separate public facilities, transport and schools. Interracial marriage was banned. Many had no right to citizenship and were regarded as aliens in major cities. Instead, they were made citizens of Bantustans, homelands scattered throughout South Africa. But resistance grew. In 1960, a huge peaceful protest against past laws ended in a massacre at Sharpeville. 69 people were killed. The deaths galvanized opposition, radicalizing liberation movements like the ANC.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence.
Open conflict erupted in the 1980s, with anti-apartheid activists frequently shot at, beaten or arrested. Mass protests were firmly put down. But little by little, the apartheid establishment crumbled. After gradual reform, Nelson Mandela, in prison since not long after Sharpeville, was set free in 1990. 4 years later, he was elected as South Africa's first black president. Apartheid had ended.
There are some final key terms on the topic discrimination and prejudice. Harmony. This means living in peace with other members of society. Tolerance. Accepting that other people may have different beliefs to that of your own. Justice. Treating people fairly, no matter their race, religion or gender. Stereotyping. Grouping people together, not seeing them as an individual. The value of the individual. All people are unique and valuable. They should all be treated with respect and treated fairly, no matter what race, religion, age or gender. This is especially important for religious people who believe in the sanctity of life, that all life is sacred and given by God, and the belief that God created all people in His image as the most important part of His creation. Don't forget to try and use quotes in your answers. In Christianity, there is a famous quote on prejudice and discrimination. In the Bible, it is written, "There is no difference between male, female, Jew or non-Jew." Thank you for watching this video on religion and prejudice. Please check out some of the other available videos from R.E. Webley.